Ben Osborn saw 11 different managerial appointments in his time as a first-team player at Nottingham Forest in just 5 years. He'll tell you about them in a moment. He'll also tell you about the day he forgot his passport on the first day of a new managerial reign, and also telling Sabri Lamouchi that a deal had been agreed for him to go to Sheffield United. It was the first the Frenchman knew about it. All of that on the way from Ben Osborn next. Well, Ben, fantastic to see you again. I was going to start right at the beginning in your Forest career, where you kind of came through the academy. But how did you get to Forest in the first place, given your Derby roots, as they say?
It was by car most of the time. But no, I got released from Derby when I think I was 8 years old. And then, I was heartbroken. Went and played Sunday League for a week, and then Forest got in touch with my mum and dad. I played quite well against them, I think. And they offered me a 6-week trial to go down. My mum didn't want me to go. My dad was and ahhing about it because, they've seen what happens when I've been released before. And but as soon as I found out about it, I was like desperate to go. And did the 6 weeks trial, and then ended up getting a contract, a year contract. And it was great, to be honest, to get to bounce back so quick at a young age. But it was strange at the time, because I was obviously supported Derby and that. I was only really young, but next minute you're in a Forest tracksuit. It was strange, but the team that we joined was really good, and I think it was fair to say Forest had a lot better setup at the time, so I'd fall on my feet.
Fast forward a few years, and obviously there's a lot of work that goes in those few years, but how much did you enjoy the debut? How much do you remember of the debut under Gary Brazil at Ipswich?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I mean, I was in and around the first team for a fair few months before that, on the bench, not getting on, but sometimes travelling as 19th man. And I can remember when Gary took over, I think it was after we did get beat by Derby, when we got smashed by Derby 5-0. I can remember thinking, maybe I'll have an opportunity to get some minutes off the bench at some point. But then I think his first game, I wasn't even in the squad at all. I think we might have drew or something, or maybe even lost. And then the next game, we're doing shape and I'm starting. So I've gone from never playing at all, never even getting on the field, to starting. And I was nervous, but it was one of them where no matter what happens now, at least I'm going to get an professional appearance under my belt. And I was played okay, and just wanted more after that.
How did you feel? Were you nervous, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely crapping it the night before. I can't remember I think I had to sing as well the night before, so I was double nervous. So I had to sing in front of the lads, and then I think that took a lot of the concentration away from the game, because I was worried about that. But I was before the game, but as soon as the game started and got a couple of touches, I felt okay, felt quite comfortable. I just didn't know what to expect. I just thought the tempo was going to be absolutely insane, which it was, but I was able to deal with it.
Yeah, I must admit, you looked, for a young kid coming in, you weren't a headless chicken. You looked kind of, and Gary Brazil's mentioned this on the channel before, you look kind of very much at home in those surroundings.
Yeah, I mean, probably that's from training with the first team for, about a year before that, playing in games and kind of holding my own in training, slowly getting used to the pace. So when obviously it came to the game, I probably was ready. I was 19, I think, which is not too young to be making your debut at all. Some lads make it a lot earlier, but I'd gone through the whole system. I'd done the youth team. I'd gone away with England. I'd done a couple of years in the 23s, and I've been around the first team squad, so I think it was definitely the right time. But any sooner I might not have been ready.
Because there are quite a few young players who come into a side, make 2 or 3 appearances and you never see them again because I don't know why, whether they feel they've made it or whatever. How do you, as a young player yourself, when you come in, you touched on the fact that you thought, oh, at least I've got an appearance, I've got a Football League appearance to my name. How do you kind of make sure you at least stay at that level, if not get better?
Well, it was quite good what happened with me. Looking back, when I made my debut, I didn't have an agent, which I think is mad now. I don't think any player making his first team debut has not got an agent. So I'm like 19 playing in the Championship. And at that game, I had no agent. I was still on my pro contract that I first signed when I was after my scholarship, which is not much money at all. And it went up a tiny bit if I played in the first team, but it was still due to, I think it was due to expire at the end of the year. But because I played, it then triggered another year. So I was effectively playing that game. I got myself another year, not on great money at all, still on, a youngster's contract. So I didn't feel like I made it at all, really. Still had a lot of work to do. But yeah, the only positive for me would have been, I could have always clung on to that if I did fall off the face of the earth. But yeah, I think that was quite a rare scenario, and I don't think it will happen at all now.
No, I mean, it's amazing fate, isn't it? Because if Gary hadn't been put in charge for that spell, who knows? Another caretaker might have come in, another manager might have come in and given you your debut. But you would always think it was more likely with Gary. And if that hadn't happened, where your career might have gone and where your life might have gone, completely different on the basis of one decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember when Billy Davis was in charge. Like I say, I was up at the end of the year. My contract had run out, so I was I was speaking with Charlie McParland. I can remember him coming in like the day before or the day of they got sacked and everyone was clearing out. And I was kind of thinking, Charlie, what's going on with like my contract? Because I think they were going to offer me something like a couple of years. But so when he did leave, everything was up in the air. I'm just a young player who's never played in the first team with like 2 months left on his contract, with no agent. And yeah, I was just running through every scenario in my head. But yeah, massive. Well, Gary Brazil obviously gave me the chance to kind of build my career. So I'd be forever grateful for that.
And then obviously Stuart Pearce comes in and you score that goal, which kind of, in a sense, defines your Forest career, doesn't it? That goal at Derby to win it in the last minute. How much do you remember about that whole day and the kind of build up to it?
Yeah, it definitely does define my career. I think obviously an unbelievable moment. It came at such a young age, and I'm still so raw. My first ever goal. So, I'd not even experienced what it felt like to stick a ball in the net in a professional game, let alone like last minute in front of the local rivals that I grew up supporting. It was just so much went through my mind after it happened. You can tell by my celebration. I can clearly tell. I just do not know what's going on. It's almost like a dreamlike state. It was just crazy. It was so many coincidences, and yeah, it was just mad. But the day, I can just remember being so excited for it. To be honest, I'd never played at Pride Park. We had nothing to lose because we were on a bad run and they were flying. So we were the underdogs, but still always fancied us. And yeah, it turned out to be a great day.
And how was the evening after it? Did you feel, having been released by them, did you feel you kind of owed them one? Did it mean a bit more because of that, or having
Not
grown
really,
up a fan,
no.
did it mean the same?
No, it wasn't because like I got released or anything. I wasn't thinking about that. But no, it was just really good. It was just like all my friends and people that I knew were all Derby fans, and they'd just give me general stick just for like playing for Forest, and they couldn't really get their head around it why I played there. And it was just an unbelievable feeling, and caused quite a stir within the family and the friendship groups. But yeah, the night was great. We were straight out in Nottingham, back on the bus with the Brian Clough Trophy. Yeah, and then straight out in Nottingham after, and it was. And then it wasn't until a few weeks later it started to sink in that was when I'd start getting recognised around the city. And before that, I would do a little bit, but it just kind of blew up after that.
And what to find the career, I suppose, is coming back to the original point. When you hit it, did you know it was? Did you know it was in?
I knew I'd caught it. I knew I caught it sweet, but yeah, luckily it went through Keogh's legs, and I was just so tired.
Now? You know, when we talk about it now,
oh yeah. I mean, I've got an actual photo of it. I got it got voted goal of the season that year, and there's a big picture frame with it in, all signed by the lads, and that's at my mum and dad's. That's probably my favourite bit of memorabilia. But yeah, no, I've just seen it so many times. Anytime I go into a school or anything like that, it's the first thing that people get up. But it's a while back now. Like when I've been going into schools recently, some kids do not have a clue about it. Can't remember it, or weren't even born. So yeah, it makes you feel a little bit old, but yeah, it was an unbelievable feeling.
And the other thing about that game, obviously, there was a huge amount of pressure on Stuart Pearce, and what the game might mean, or what defeat might mean for him. How aware were the players of all of that was going on at the same time as well?
Yeah, I think we were. I think we knew it was kind of a must win. If we didn't win, he'd probably get sacked. But I think it would have been probably the game after where we didn't win, or 2 games after, and then he ended up getting sacked anyway. So football moves so quick. It's good that I can still look back on that goal and that game, and people still talk to me about it, because it's a huge moment against your local rivals. But if that was just any other fixture, really, it probably wouldn't be talked about, because the season did kind of fizzle out, and Stuart did end up getting sacked a couple games later. So I think that was start of a period where that had become quite the norm.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about managers, because I made a list of those you've played under, which is remarkable. So you were at the club as a first team player basically for 5 years, and you played under, in order, Brazil, Pearce, Friedman, Williams, Montagnier, Brazil, Warburton, Brazil, Karanka, Ireland, O'Neill. I don't think I've forgotten anybody or left anybody out. But
and I had pre-season under Lamucci as well.
Yes, yeah, you didn't play a game under him, did you? But
no.
How do you kind of get your head around that as a player, that it's changing every 6 months?
Yeah, it was madness. I mean, it became the absolute norm for me. It's all I know.
Yeah.
But the thing that was getting frustrating was the changing in players, because each manager would come in and bring in their own players, and it was just becoming absolutely ridiculous. We did a quiz once in the physio room of I think it was every player that had signed for Forest in the last 3 years or 4 years or something. I can remember there being 60 or 70, 60 or 70 answers, and people are trying to get them, and I'm quiz master, because I know I pretty much knew most of them, because I'd been I think there was only a few of us that had been here the whole time. But it was just mad, and it was so hard to build anything. And once you thought you were getting something going, then there'd be a change, and it was just really hard to build a culture, and something that I didn't really have there. And I didn't until I went to Sheffield United and seen what it was like to, properly build a culture and get it in place, and everyone's buying into the same thing. It really opened my eyes.
Yeah, I was going to say that, because Wilder obviously was a kind of dominant figure at the club, I would imagine. Certainly from the outside, that's the way it. He's in charge. He's picking the team. He's signing the players. He's in charge. Yeah. And you never really had that at Forest. I suppose Billy Davies was possibly the last, but that was right at the beginning of your career, before you made your debut.
Yeah, I've seen glimpses of it when I was up with the first team under Billy. He'd definitely sort of done that. was trying to build a culture, or he did build a culture, and the players were his, majority of them. A couple that probably weren't.
Yes, I'm sure that's the case.
But yeah, but other than that, like we'd have a new manager come in, and half the team would have been signed by someone else, and then he'd bring his own players in, and then there'd be chopping and changing. And I think it got to the maddest point is when Karanka signed. I think it was like 10 players on deadline day, and we must have got rid of 8, and that was just the maddest. Going in on the day after deadline day, and everyone's lockers had changed, and you had a new team. I felt like the new player because that many had changed, and it was just like, what is going on here? That was crazy, but yeah, it's
So
it did become pretty normal.
Do you laugh at it at the end and kind of just roll with it, or did you get annoyed at the time that?
Laugh at it
some
now.
of them you'd have got on with, wouldn't you? Some of them you'd have got on with.
Yeah.
Sure, you didn't get on with all of them, but some of them you get on with and you feel like you're building something, and bang, they're out the door.
Yeah. No, we did laugh at it. Like I said, there was a group of us there's a few of us that stayed the majority of the time. Chris was still there. Eric was there until just before me. And we'd have people that like coming and ground us, and then they'd move on. And it was, I mean, you can laugh at it now, definitely. It was just crazy times. But like, I look through the leagues now, and there's so many players that I've played with. You'd think I've played for 15 different clubs, but it's just that at some point they've had a stint at Forest.
More to come from Ben Osborn in a moment. If you want to sign up and get this video as a podcast, go to patreon.com/sportchippers. You'll be able to download this as a podcast and also the previous ones as well. Need to thank my members of Chippers Club, particularly the Gold members who continue to support the channel, and they are this week Carl Thorne, Tiny Media, Philip Sheldon, Chris Annable, Paul Harrison, Christian Tonnies, Perry, James Sorden, Thomas Newton, Mark German, Alan Francis, David Shelton, Mark Davis, Ez Chowdhury, Paul Metcalf, Tim Hayward, Richard Waterhouse and Ian Russell. If you sign up for Chippers Club, you'll get these videos, the extended versions, you'll get them more than a week early, and you'll see them without YouTube ads as well. I'll pop a link in the description below, also to the Patreon page as well, if you want to get these as a podcast too. Let's get back though to Ben Osborn. Who was the surprise departure? Who was the one that made you kind of your ears prick up a bit and really shocked you?
I think I was never completely shocked, because there was always, there'd always be like rumblings, or there'd be a section of the fan base that weren't happy, and that the owners would get swayed. But I think that the one that frustrated me the most was probably when Warburton went. That did shock me, because I can remember him ringing me the night before and talking about like the plans he had for January, and he knows what we need to do, the players that we're getting in, the players that we're getting rid of, and just like, I think we'd lost the game, and he's just like, we need to stick together and concentrate on this game midweek, and then we're going to add a couple of two to the squad, and we'll kick on. And then I think it was the next morning he was gone. So that one was a big shot.
How do players generally find out about these things? Is it from the media, or do you get tipped off before it's going to happen? Or there must be a WhatsApp group or something of players, I assume.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, at Forest at the time, it was Twitter.
Right.
Probably you. Yeah, just seeing rumblings, or sometimes going in and and then being told. But yeah, it'd normally come out on the news really before. But recently, when I've been involved in changes, we've been briefed before, probably the morning before.
Right. You mentioned the Warburton one, but obviously there were plenty of different managers at different times. Who was the one you kind of Go on.
So, sorry, I tell you what, O'Neill was a shock as well, just the timing of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was that was one that we like couldn't believe. We'd just finished like a pre-season run, like a week into pre-season or whatever, and like I think we're going away the next day. I can't remember where we were going. Yeah, we were traveling to Greece the next day on pre-season.
Right.
So we were just having a coffee with the lads after finishing training, and then I think we seen on Twitter that he'd been sacked, and it was like literally 10 minutes ago. We're having like dinner with him, and like everything's going ahead to go to Greece, and then he'd went. That was out of the blue.
That is amazing, isn't it? That quick. And because about 20 minutes later, Lamucci was announced as manager. It's amazing how quickly the whole thing happened there.
Yeah, it was. And then so the first time we meet Lamucci is we're all on the bus going down to bloody Stansted to fly to Greece.
Right.
So yeah, like with like this French, like he's a manager now. Like, do you walk down the bus and introduce yourself, or? But like he got to know me pretty quickly because that was literally his first day. We were going down to Stansted, and we're travelling down, and I'm like having a laugh with the lads. Like, I'll make sure you've like got your passports, lads, and all this. And because I can remember like picking mine, I knew I definitely had mine. And as of like we've got off the bus and we're just checking in, I've got my passport and it's my missus's. I've picked hers up. We've gone down to Stansted. I'm thinking, oh my God, it's this manager's first day. I'm about to go up to him and say, I can't get on this plane. And so I've gone up and said, right, Gaffer, I'm Ben. He's like, hello, you okay? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I've accidentally picked up my missus's passport, and there's a bit of a language barrier. And he's like, sorry. And I'm like, I can't get on the plane. I've picked up the wrong passport. I've not got my passport, and he's still like not really getting it. So I'm having to show him the passport, show him the picture. Like, I need to go back.
Me. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just a nightmare. I just said, look, I'll see you there. I'll pay the fine. I'll sort myself out. And then luckily ended up getting one of my friends to drop it off and get a later flight out there. But yeah, it was very stressful.
Just remind me, he then sold you, did he?
Yeah, and then he got rid of me. Yeah,
yeah, so, he didn't play a game.
First impressions. He was fine about it. To be fair, I got on well with him for the brief time I was with him.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about Aitor Karanka, who was one that there was this kind of thing. I think was it against Leeds? You came off the bench. I mean, you virtually played every game under most of the managers. But he came off the bench, I think it was against Leeds, and scored and seemed to kind of get involved in a altercation is too strong a word, but you kind of made your point. Yeah. I think that's probably the way to put it. What was going on there?
I think it was just a case of being like frustrated being on the bench, to be honest. Nothing much to it. I was a bit younger then, just desperate to play, and I think most of the time, I could understand why I wasn't playing, but I think at that point, can't remember what it was. I thought that I should be playing, or at least should have got on the pitch a bit earlier, because I could see we were really like we were getting like overrun by 10 men at the time. I think they had 10 men, and and then when he kind of like put me on, it was just like I want to prove a point and that, and yeah, still just a bit frustrated after I scored, but
it was heck of a goal.
I just didn't bother celebrating. Yeah, I know. Yeah, maybe I need to get in that frame of mind a bit often.
The other thing I was going to say was that's unusual for you to be on the bench, because you took an awful lot of stick as a player, as some Forest players do, particularly some of the self-growth kind of academy players, the ones that come through the academy. James Perch before you, and Ryan Yates recently afterwards. But you played pretty much, largely, I would guess, 38, 40 games a season, pretty much constantly every season. How did you deal with that kind of stick you got from some people? And it wasn't everybody, but some people. But you were playing every week.
I think at the start it was like a bit strange because I think it's like anyone that breaks through. You go from being golden boy and then all of a sudden you probably be the mainstay in the team, and you get a lot of if results don't go well, they're gonna go for someone. So I think it was tough at the start, but afterwards, it was just a case of, well, you must be doing something right if the manager keeps picking you, and the manager after that keeps picking you, and so on. And yeah, you just have to, I don't know. You just have to kind of blank it out, really. And like you say, it wasn't everyone. It was like kind of pretty split down the middle. I remember I used to get, when I was on Twitter a lot, I used to get tagged in arguments where someone would be saying I'm crap and someone would be saying, no, I'm all right. And I'd be tagged in them all, just like reading it like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But,
See, I wonder what that does for you. I mean, you've got to be pretty strong to kind of just be able to brush that off and, and not get involved and not read it so
social
much.
media. Yeah, it's social media, isn't it? I think it's in every job now. Anyone that's in the public eye now will be coming under similar kind of stuff, whether it's, an actor on the TV show or something, or anything like that. It's just part of the parcel of it. I completely take absolute zero notice of it now. I know when I've played well, know when I've played wrong, and if I'm, I could do more. I'll sit down with the manager and talk about it. And I think that's what it was about. As long as I'm doing what the manager asked of me, and I'm always looking to improve, then what else can I do?
Well, as I kept saying, the managers kept picking you, didn't they? So, and it wasn't one manager who had his favourites. As we've listed, there are a dozen managers in 5 years that picked you pretty much every week.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of times where, like, probably the stick was justified after a bad performance or whatever. But I'm sure, like most Forest fans can say that, every time I played, I did give it, 100%. And I think since I've gone, they do appreciate it a little bit more.
How did that departure come about? Because it seemed that it kind of came from a media perspective, kind of almost completely out of the blue. I don't know if it had been bubbling away for a while, or it was a sudden thing once you'd taken the wrong passport to the airport.
No, it was. I was going into my final year at Forest, so it was kind of the case, waiting to see if Forest were going to offer me anything. And in the January, I almost went to Stoke on deadline day, but Martin O'Neill said, "No, like, we want to try and push for the playoffs. Like, if you come to me in the summer, I won't stand in your way, but I want you to the end of the season." So I was just like, fair enough. And they said, "Look, we're not going to let you go." So it was just like, right, fair enough. Then it was a case of, well, are Forest going to, offer me a deal then? Because they're blocking moves where it's at the time it would have been like double the money that I was on. And I just wasn't sure that I felt completely wanted at Forest at the time. But then the manager made it clear. So I was like, fair play. Let's stay, and because I wanted nothing more than to get promoted with Forest. I was speaking to one of the lads the other day. I still think it's probably one of the best clubs you can be at if you get promoted, because it just means so much to so many people.
After so long. Yeah,
the party would just be insane in the city. And then so we got to pre-season, then Martin O'Neill leaves, and so it did come out of the blue. I'm in pre-season Olympiacos, and then just hear that Sheffield United are interested, and I don't really think too much of it. And then it just ended up going so quickly, and to the point where I was in training, and then my agents rang me and saying, "Look, don't go out to train. You need to go to Sheffield and do a medical." So I was like, right, am I taking my stuff? And he's like, "Yeah, I think so." So I'm like packing up my boots, and lads are like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, I think I'm off it, lads. And they're like, "What?" So I go speak to the chief exec, and he says, "Yeah, it's done." He's like, "We just need to go and tell the manager now." And I'm like,
Right.
does he not know? And so I'm not saying he thinks I'm going out for training, doesn't know anything by the looks of it about anything.
Wow. Right.
And I've had to basically say, yeah, I'm going to Sheffield United. I think they've accepted a bid. And then at this point, the chief exec sort of put it in the manager's hands, said, look, what do you want to do? And he's kind of gone, well, I want you to stay, but what do you want to do? And I was like, well, if you want me to stay, I need a contract offer. And it was like Premier League, like obviously at Sheffield United. And it just ended up just saying, okay, wish you all the best. And that was that. And it was like out the back door with a bin bag and up to Sheffield.
See,
And that was it.
I'm sure in most fans' views and kind of, these things take a long time and the manager's in on it and the two managers talk to each other and the one manager bids 300,000 and the other one says, well, you can have him for 400,000.
I think
That's
that probably used
garbage,
to be the case,
isn't it? Yeah.
that probably used to be the case, but not very rarely now. Managers will still have a say, but I think when it comes to like everything else, it's just left to directors of football and stuff like that now, and it is probably for the best. That's certainly the way it's going.
From your point
But
of view,
yeah, it was strange. I don't know.
Sorry, Ben, go on.
No, it's just I don't know if that's the case in all transfers or mine was a little bit unique. I'm not sure, but yeah, it did come slightly out of the blue.
Did it feel like it was a good time for you to go as well, given you'd had those years at the club that perhaps you needed a new challenge, try and do something different, playing the Premier League, for example?
It was a tough one because I was doing pre-season under Lamucci and I got a good feeling about him and I was excited and thought, you know what, we might have a chance here. Seems a good coach. He wanted to play. I think he wanted to play me like in midfield, in like a midfield three, which would have suited me down rather than being used here, there, and everywhere. And I thought, I was excited for the season. So that it was a decision to be made. So as much as before, it was just kind of like you just don't know what's going to happen this season at Forest. I did have a bit of a good feeling. So it did make it a tough decision, 100%.
You mentioned that versatility, and I don't want to go too far down the left back role because we spoke about that so often when you were there. But left back, I'm trying to think. Holding midfield, you played number 10 a few times, left side of midfield. Do you think in the end that kind of hindered you at Forest a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it had its plus points, but I think as soon as left back started getting involved, that definitely hindered me because like it's still I started this season at left back, which is I'd say to the manager like enough's enough there. I don't want to play left back in the Championship because all that happens is they just get a striker on me and stand balls up to the back stick. It's not rocket science. But yeah, maybe a little bit. Like I say, all the other positions I can interchange, and I felt really comfortable. It was just when I was put left back, I did feel like bloody, I'm having to do a job. I wish we'd sign one. Can we just please sign one? That's what it was kind of. That's what it was kind of like. But like I say, pros and cons. Probably wouldn't have played that many games on the spin if it was just one position. But end of the day, you do just want to be out there. But you can get sort of seen as that kind of utility player.
Just to kind of wrap things up, how do you look back at the whole spell? I guess most of it would have been enjoyable as a player, but across the piece, how do you kind of sum up your Forest career?
Oh yeah, I am proud of it. Obviously, coming through the academy and all through the system and seeing so many different managers and just being there for so many years, I did obviously grow to love the club, and yeah, just proud really. The amount of appearances I made in not that long of a time, playing for such a big club, and yeah, just it would have been great to get a promotion or to have a really successful time, but it just wasn't to be. It looks like they're sort of getting on the right path at the moment. But yeah, look back with a load of fond memories.
Well, it was great to deal with you at the time. You're always good to chat to on the mic and off the mic, so I appreciate that. And thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it. Cheers, Benny.
No worries. All the best.